Welcome back to Packet Loss. In this episode, I'm going to be covering how to configure administrative roles and administrator accounts. I'll be building off my previous videos in this series, so with that, let's get started. To effectively manage our Palo Alto firewalls, we need to understand the significance of administrative roles. These are used to assign applicable permissions and responsibilities for administrative accounts on the firewall. Make sure you create these roles uniquely tailored towards your environment based on its needs and roles within your organization as to not allow unintended access. Under the Device tab, under Admin Roles, you'll notice that there are some predefined administrative roles that you can use as examples for your organization. However, if you don't plan to use these, I highly advise removing them as to not confuse yourself as you create custom roles in the future. As to better understand our administrative roles, if you navigate to the Administrators tab, you'll notice under the Role column that Super User is mentioned under the default admin account. However, if you click on Add, we're going to cover the 4 different types of dynamic user accounts that you can set up. If you choose to use a super user, this will have full access to the firewall and can define new administrative accounts and virtual systems. You must have super user privileges to create an administrative user with super user privileges. A super reader has read-only access to the firewall. A device admin has full access to the firewall settings except for defining new accounts or virtual systems. Keep in mind any device level roles that have access to all virtual systems on the firewalls, unless you have a multi-VSys license and explicitly define a per VSys admin role. And the last one being device reader. It has read-only access to all the firewall settings except password profiles. Because there is no access and administrator accounts, only the logged in account is visible. Though this may seem like a very small number of role types, I promise you the granularity of these can be tweaked to your heart's content. This is where role-based administrative profiles come into play. So instead of dynamic, if you click on role-based, this will give you the option under the drop-down under profile for the predefined roles that Palo Alto has already set. However, there's an option at the bottom to create a brand new profile, so that's what we're going to be doing. For the purposes of this training video, we're going to take a look at 2 different user accounts we'll be creating to reflect a real-world example of responsibility differences in an organization. One is going to be an account for our junior admin named David, and one is going to be for our senior admin named Bill. This leads me into talking about administrator accounts. As implied by the name, these are the accounts set up with the applicable roles you define with your Admin Roles tab to administer your firewalls. By default, Palo Alto gives you a admin account with the default name of admin and password of admin as well. I strongly recommend replacing this account with a different super user account to manage your devices, and in our case, we're going to be creating a brand new super user named Bill. So let's do that. Under the Administrators tab, you'll click on Add. Our name is going to be Bill. It's going to be our admin. We're not setting an authentication profile. We are not setting anything else up except for a password currently. And once we're done, click OK. Now that our new super user account has been created, we need to create a brand new account for our junior admin named David. So to do that, same thing as we did before, we're going to add another administrator account. We'll call it David. Let's put a password on this. And then down below, instead of a super user with a dynamic administrator type, this time it's going to be role-based, right? Because he's a junior admin, we want to restrict his permissions just like you would in a real-world environment. And to do this, instead of using a predefined admin role, we're going to create a brand new admin role profile for whatever we need for him. In our scenario, David is a junior network admin, so what we want to do is limit his responsibilities and roles and permissions within his admin role that we create. So let's put a name to this profile before we get started. So we're going to call this junior admin role. The description, limited access to network resources. In the web UI, down below, under the Network tab, let's limit his access by removing access to the Network tab entirely, as well as the Device tab. This will prevent him from making any routing changes, as well as any device reboots or anything along those lines that may cause a network outage or interruption. And under the command line, instead of not giving him access to the command line at all, let's give him super reader permissions, so he'll at least be able to get into the CLI and make some show commands just to check on things as needed from a troubleshooting perspective. Once we've done that, let's click OK. And you'll notice now his profile set to his administrator account is for the junior admin role. And click OK again. And now that we have our new super user account, as well as David's custom base administrator role for his junior admin role account, let's commit these changes. Now that our changes have been committed, let's actually validate access to both of these accounts and look at the permissions in each of them. So first up, we're going to log out of our administrator role and log back in using David's account. And as expected, on the top right, you'll notice that the network tab and the device tab are no longer present. So we're going to log out of here and log back in with Bill's account. And as expected, upon logging in, you'll notice that all the tabs on the very top are present for a super user account, just like the normal admin super user role. Now that we've validated our GUI accounts, what we want to do now is SSH to the Palo Altos and validate the CLI access. So let's do that. So I'm going to SSH, starting off with David's account. And once I log in, the first thing I want to do, right, knowing that I have read-only access in the CLI, I should not be able to see any of the set commands from the configuration mode. So if I enter configure and I hit a question mark, you'll notice that there's no set commands indicating that I cannot set or any parameters that you would normally be able to do if you had a super user account, right? So that confirms that I have my read-only access, right? I can run all the show commands I want, which is great. I'm going to exit out of here. We're going to check Bill's access now. So let's log in. And I expect if I go into configure mode with Bill's account, I hit a question mark, I'll have way more options. And I was correct on that. So in this case, I do have my set commands, and if anyone is familiar with the set commands in CLI, this is the same as if you were to make a change in the GUI. The set command is the very start of the command if you were to make the same kind of change in the CLI. That's what that's used for. So this is confirming that we have a full super user permission in the CLI for Bill's account, and we have limited read-only access for David's account. So I'm going to exit out of here. The next thing I want to cover is password profiles. For those unaware, this is to ensure a strong security posture on your password complexity for your admin accounts, and to do this, we'll need to set up a password profile. This will override the local minimum complexity for your passwords. This is under the Device tab, under Password Profiles. The next thing we're going to do is click on Add. We're going to build out our password profile name, so password-profile, and we're going to go through these variables below. Required password change period. How long is this password going to be good for? Let's say for 120 days. Expiration warning. When do we want to notify our admin that their password's about to expire? Let's say 15 days out. And then these bottom two options go hand in hand. Post-expiration admin login count and post-expiration grace period. So let's say post-expiration admin login count has a range between 0 and 3. The grace period has a range between 0 and 30. What this means is after your password has expired, how many times a login can log in total for your account between 0 and 3, and over what duration of time. So let's say 7 days. I'm going to give them 3 tries over the duration of 7 days. If their password expires, they're still able to log in, but they're going to be required to change their password once the 7 days are over. We're going to click OK, and we're going to add that to David's account. Under password profile, we're going to add it there. We're going to commit that change. The significance of setting these admin roles is highly impactful, as you can tell, so be sure to uniquely tailor your admin roles to match the roles and responsibilities of the personnel in your organization. In conclusion, I hope this video helps you learn how to set up admin roles and accounts within your organization. I plan to cover authentication profiles in a later video, which will dive into setting up two-factor authentication and some other cool and useful features. I've also included some helpful KBS articles below, as per usual. Thank you again for watching, and if you have any suggestions, please leave a comment below.